All right, it looks like we're streaming live here. My name is Ben Blau. I'm a professor and the head of the Economics and Finance Department here at the Huntsman School of Business. And I'm here with some distinguished guests from Zions Bank. We're going to start with Robert Bischoff. Robert, how are you? Welcome.
Good. Thank you, Dr. Blau.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Let me give our listeners a brief introduction about Robert's distinguished career at Zions. He's currently the Executive Vice President of Zions Bank at Northern Utah Idaho Commercial Banking Group. He leads the commercial banking efforts from Davis County all the way to the Northern Idaho border. Interestingly, he began his career as a part-time teller while he was an undergraduate student at Weber State in 1989 and has held a variety of positions that range from loan officer, commercial loan officer, all the way to regional director of commercial banking. Robert holds an MBA from BYU and received his bachelor's degree in finance from Weber State. He also attended a graduate banking program at the University of Pennsylvania, which maybe we can talk about in our discussion here. And he's also very active in his community. He serves in a number of different capacities. We certainly appreciate having Robert Bischoff here today. So thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Great. Let's begin. Why don't I just give you an opportunity to just tell our listeners about your career? Maybe just go through your career. Tell us about what it's like. You've been through financial crises. You've been now through a pandemic. You've been through other issues that have affected the financial services industry. And maybe just give us a background of your career and the things that you've learned.
Well, thank you for asking that question. It's kind of interesting, this whole idea of starting my career within the bank as a part-time teller. One of the things that has been a real beneficial part of my career is the opportunity to experience numerous different positions and opportunities that has allowed me to really understand the makeup of how things are done within the organization. And I really feel like that's provided a real strong foundation for me in how I manage, how I interact with people, and how I understand how the processes work. Because while processes have changed over time, the fundamentals of those processes still are in place. And so I feel like that's been a real benefit to me, rather than just coming into an organization at some midpoint in the career path. I've been able to kind of navigate through the career path and understand how that works. Working in the financial sector is a pretty interesting ride, to say the least, because we are so influenced by financial factors that occur within the marketplace. And there's not a financial institution around that does not go somewhat unmarred, if you will, by the various different financial changes that are occurring. And so, being in the financial sector has been a great experience. It's been very educational, of course, but it's always changing.
Yeah. Thanks for that introduction. Let me follow up with two questions. First, I think it might be interesting for our students to understand, from going from a part-time teller to now executive vice chairman the executive vice president there at Zions. Maybe you can help us understand how you developed leadership skills throughout your career, the importance of those leadership skills in helping you overcome challenges. And then a second follow-up, how does the leadership skills that you've developed, how are they specific to the financial services industry, right? There's, like you said, the financial services industry is very unique relative to other industries, and maybe there's some nuggets of wisdom that you could provide some of our students about leadership within finance.
Thank you for the question. maybe I'll share just a little personal experience that comes to mind as you ask that question. Last night, I attended my son's recreational basketball game, and his team was hanging in there, and they were close in the game, and there were a couple of times that he came down the court, bringing the ball up midcourt, and he threw the ball away, and he got pretty frustrated, and he went over to the bench and said, "Coach, take me out." And maybe I can just use that as an example. A career is filled with challenges. A career is filled with opportunities. A career is filled with ways in which we can develop who we are. And, for me, and the way that I've kind of adapted leadership skills and so on and so forth is I've never chosen to take myself out of the game. Because I know that if I'm dribbling the ball up the court and one or two or three or four times I throw the ball away, the only way I'm going to get better is if I figure out how to not throw the ball away. And that doesn't happen when I'm out of the game. It only happens when I'm in the game and I'm able to kind of see how the plays develop and so on and so forth. So I guess one of the comments that I would just simply make from a leadership perspective is keep yourself in the game. Give yourself a chance to develop and to grow and to learn. And as a matter of fact, where possible, put yourself in the game. When there are difficult challenges going on within an organization, or there are things that are just abnormal, raise your hand and say, "Coach, put me in the game. I'm ready to go." Because that's how we learn, and that's how we develop. And yeah, you're going to fail. There will be times when you throw the ball away, but you run back down the court, you re-strategize in your mind, and you figure out how to stay in the game. Hope that makes sense.
That's fantastic. You're talking my language. I don't think I could count how many turnovers I've had in my illustrious basketball career. It's many, and it's not that illustrious, my career. But I like that comment, right? I like that comment to not only, one, recognize that you're going to make mistakes, right? Basketball is a game full of mistakes. And generally, whoever wins is the team that makes the least of those mistakes. And I think it's important to note that once you recognize that you're going to make mistakes, that you should be all right with that and try to learn from those mistakes and not shy away. So that's great advice. Maybe comment on how leadership within the financial services industry might be different than leadership outside in say, a different industry.
Well, I'll start off by just simply saying, the financial services industry is a very highly regulated industry, which is not completely different than other industries, but to a certain extent it is. There is a great deal of controls, oversight, second guessing, if you will, Monday morning quarterback sort of things that occur within the financial services industry. You look at what occurred in 2008 and 2009 with the Great Recession. There was a lot of blaming that went on, and really caused a lot of destruction, if you will, of the faith and confidence in the financial services industry. And it's really easy to look backwards and say, this is where, things got awry. But at the end of the day, the financial services industry is gauged by fundamental principles. And it's when we deviate from those fundamental principles that we find ourselves stepping outside of the boundaries. And so one of the challenges of being a leader within the financial services market is making sure that we're, of course, attentive to some of the changes, the development of fintech, the way in which we deliver product to the marketplace, the way in which those products are bought and sold, as we learned with mortgage-backed securities and CDLs and whatever else during the Great Recession. But you have to center your concentration on fundamentals. And we have to recognize that economics do work. They are proven principles. Finance does work. Those are proven principles. And so I would say one of the challenges is, of course, we've got to deal with regulation. We've got to be innovative. We've got to figure out how we're going to deliver to the market in ways that help consumers better be able to consume. But we have to stay attentive to fundamentals, because those fundamentals, with all of that other stuff set aside, don't change.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, let's stay on this topic. I'm so curious. I finished my graduate studies, and my first teaching assignment was to teach money and banking fall semester of 2008, right? So I remember I tell you what, it was the most interesting class, and I remember going into class after some of the stuff had gone down in September and in October of 2008, and I literally just put the textbook down and we just had a conversation. The whole class was just about conversations of everything new we were learning about the crisis. Can you speak to that a little bit? Like, tell me, I'm really curious to understand the type of leadership it would take to navigate through a crisis that large. And then maybe you can bring up the recent pandemic, because I think that also has played a role, not just on the financial services industry, like the crisis of 8 and 9 really focused on, but I think the pandemic is also, we might need to talk about the role of leadership in navigating through crises, because I think that's something that your experience would be important to share.
Well, I'll if you don't mind, I'll just turn back the clock a little bit to 2008, 2009. You know, I would say we're blessed to have the leadership group that we have within our organization. Harris Simmons is a tremendous leader and has the ability very distinctly to be able to be transparent, but also to be able to recognize the challenges that we're facing, right? You know, one of the challenges that Zions Bank faced as a part of the financial crisis, very similar to many other organizations, is we lost sight perhaps a little bit of some fundamentals. We saw opportunities, particularly in real estate development, where, you know, anybody could buy a piece of ground and anybody could turn it into a subdivision, and anybody could be successful in making money doing it, right? Because everybody had done it. And again, going back to this whole concept of fundamentals, one of the challenges we faced during that time was when the markets seized and there was no ability to obtain new capital. The way financial markets work is dependent upon the ebb and flow of capital. And we couldn't gain the right type of capital, nor could anyone else. And so Harris had this distinct ability to be transparent with the employees, and also be willing to help us recognize the difficulties that we were facing. So I would say, not only in the Great Recession, but also in today with COVID-19. One leadership skill that I have learned through my involvement with this particular financial organization has been be transparent. Bring your employees up to the level that helps them be able to recognize the significance of what's going on, because it allows the employees to act in a way that is consistent with what you're trying to accomplish. Hiding behind something doesn't help anybody. As a matter of fact, it creates kind of this behind the scenes feelings of, do we really know what's going on within this organization? And I don't think that's beneficial. And so, looking at today's market and COVID-19, Zions Bank has been on the forefront, I'll say, with not only providing the right type of benefit to our employees as we navigate through the pandemic, allowing them to work from home, allowing time off in the event that they felt like they would be exposed or could have been exposed, and working with families, dealing with children. Zions has just done a phenomenal job of providing some of that benefit. And then on the opposite side, relative to our customers, Zions Bank ranked number 9 in the nation with the delivery of the Paycheck Protection Program. We clearly performed well above our weight in a market that was very disruptive and in a market that has a ton of challenges. So, being the type of leader that allows individuals to recognize what's going on, having open conversations, town hall meetings, if you will, that allows the right conversations to take place, the right questions to be asked, is a terrific leadership style.
Yeah, that's great. I like the idea of transparency, the importance of transparency in a leadership role. So I appreciate you saying that. Let me rewind the clock a little bit and take you back to your undergraduate days down in Ogden at Weber State. We have a whole bunch of undergraduate students that are listening to your words of wisdom here. And I think it might be interesting, maybe if you could give them some perspective about how your experience at Weber State as an undergraduate student, how that shaped maybe what your career became. And while you're talking about that, maybe also talk about your graduate school experience at BYU and then at the University of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, oh, terrific. So I have an undergrad degree in finance. That'll make you happy, Dr. Blau.
I am happy. Thank you.
I'll just start off here. I don't think that it's easy to be successful in an ever-changing marketplace if you're not willing to learn. And my undergraduate experience really provided a foundation for this desire to learn. And the principles that were taught in the classroom are really nice from a textbook perspective. But the real challenge comes as we take textbook principles and we apply them in a practical way in application. I can't tell you how many times going through my undergraduate studies where I would say to myself, when am I ever going to use this? And the real challenge was taking a concept that I was being taught and then applying it to a real life experience. And those classes that I participated in from an undergraduate experience, where the professor had the ability to connect the dots between, okay, here's the principle we're teaching you, and here's the practical application. Here's a way that it might be used in the marketplace. Those are the experiences that really make learning beneficial for me. And maybe it's just me, but really that's the connection that has to take place. For me, learning is all about this development of what I would call critical thinking principles. As I've kind of tried to navigate through my career, I would say that is the primary thing that I've spent my entire life trying to figure out, which is thinking critically through experiences to help develop answers for why things occur the way they do, or why things will occur the way they do, or will, and understanding that things don't just happen. They happen based on activities that we put into those, and those activities create the results that we're looking for. But if you don't take those basic principles, the textbook style learning, and get away from the textbook, you have to get away from the textbook, and you have to develop it into practical application. If you can't connect those dots, the textbook learning is worthless. Right. But if you can connect those dots, the textbook learning is critical. When I chose to get my MBA, for example, it was again all about these principles, these financial principles or economic principles or human resource principles that were being taught. But really the benefit of an MBA for me, because I participated in an executive MBA program at BYU, was the interaction with people from 50 different industries and being able to see how they have used or are able to now adapt those items into their current behavior. That is that's where the rubber hits the road, right? And then being able to step back and take the appropriate time to reflect on experiences. In my MBA program, as well as in the banking school program that occurred back at University of Pennsylvania, we would get engaged in conversations and do group projects and so on and so forth. But being able to take a step back and reflecting on, okay, what did I learn? What's different from what I knew before? And how do I adapt it? How do I make this a part of who I am? Some things become a natural part of you. Some things you have to force, and some things don't matter. And being able to separate between those is really what learning is all about. So I hope that answered your question.
That's great. That's great. I came across a quote yesterday from a distinguished economist that said, "It doesn't matter how smart you are if you don't stop and think." Right. And I thought that was a relevant comment to what you're saying. I mean, I have had students in the past wonder when I can imagine students of mine that are listening to this right now are wondering, when will I ever use some of the stuff that I've learned in Dr. Blau's class, right? And I've told them, unfortunately, you're probably only going to use 10%, and that's being generous, of the things that you learn in the classroom. But what you're learning is you're learning how to learn, right? You're learning how to think. And I think from a leadership perspective, like you mentioned, that is critical, right? To be able to stop, reflect on what's happened previously, and then stop and think about maybe the path going forward. So that's great. Maybe comment on on your experience at the University of Pennsylvania in the graduate program revolving around banking.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to attend what's called the Stonier Banking School on the campus of the University of Pennsylvania. It's a 3-year program where we would go back for 2 weeks a year and spend time on the university's campus. And about half of the instruction came from professors from the University of Pennsylvania, from Wharton. And they would teach fundamental principles about leadership. And so we got that aspect of this leadership training from these Wharton professors. And then the other side was really banking school. How does banking work from the ground up? What are product sets? How does credit work? How do we develop and innovate new products? And so that was the essence of the study. And then over the course of the year, after the 2-week on-site, we would work on projects and develop different concepts for our organization, as well as looking at what other organizations were doing and so on and so forth. So that was the essence of the learning. It was a terrific experience.
That's great. That's a great opportunity. Again, I think it signals your continued desire to learn, right?
Yeah.
I think that's maybe a common theme of our discussion today. You know, it's interesting. I'm of course I'm a finance professor, so I'm interested in banking generally. And after that crisis, it just seemed like there was some angst building up in society against the banking industry, right? And that would probably have to be tough to handle as a leadership there at Zions. But it's interesting to note that banking, financial development, the evidence is clear, right? That financial development improves the lot of society, right? That the banking industry in general allows access to capital for individuals that they wouldn't have otherwise. And literally there's studies in the economics literature that show that banking not only increases economic activity within a country, but that banking can reduce poverty rates, right? It literally allows people access to capital, to pull people out of poverty. So I think that's important to note. Can you make a comment on maybe the role that a leader within the financial services industry has in maybe helping market the importance of finance to the good of society? I might be catching you off guard here, but I want to talk about maybe the morality of the importance of banking.
Yeah, and I'll just start off by making a really quick comment, which is just simply, if we lose sight of what it is that we have the potential to provide to communities, to markets, to individuals, we're not doing what we're intended to do, right? So one of the things that I think we have to stay centered on in the financial services industry is, why are we there, right? And if we lose sight of why we're there and what it is intended for us to accomplish within communities and to raise people, we're off track, right? Right. So one of the, and I apologize for bringing this up again, but the Paycheck Protection Program, I can't tell you the number of hours that was spent in making sure that we had the ability to deliver this SBA generated program that was an airplane being built while we were in flight, right? They were adding on wings and engines and controls while we were already in flight. We're now in the stage of Paycheck Protection Program 2.0. There are many financial institutions that have chosen not to participate because of the disruption and the challenges that came about because of Payroll Protection Program 1. Our chairman, CEO, took the stance, we're going to do this because this is the right thing to do. We have businesses out in our marketplaces that need this money. And the delivery methodology is through this Paycheck Protection Program as developed by the SBA. And although it may serve as a distraction, although it may take us off the normal path that we would like to go down, it's the right thing to do for our communities. And so, I guess at the end of the day, my comment would just simply be, we have to stay centered on why we exist and develop, integrate, try to bring to the market those types of products and services that key into the needs of our communities.
That's great. That's fantastic. Listen, this is our guest has been Executive Vice President Robert Bischoff from Zions. We're going to have some question and answers for him in a little bit. What we're going to do next here is we're going to invite Carol Durkis. She is currently Zions recruiting and college relations consultant. Carol has spent 20 years in human resources, the last 8 years with Zions. She's going to talk to us a little bit about internship opportunities, the internship program, and other opportunities that exist in Zions. Carol, do you want to just introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about your role there at Zions?
Yeah, thank you for that. And yeah, I have been with Zions since I moved here from Indiana 8 years ago. And I feel very fortunate that I landed at such a great corporation, especially not knowing anything about the corporation in itself when I started. So I have many years in the HR career sector and love the recruiting side. So that is what I do for Zions. And this will be my 5th year to manage the internship program. And it's such a great job to get to work with the students and provide such a great opportunity for them to, jumpstart their career, give them a glimpse into the business world and see what working at Zions is all about. I also recruit for the Banker Development Program, which is a great program, and I'll talk about that in a little bit as well. So I'll just start off by talking about our internship program. It is for the summer, and it spans from the beginning of May until the middle of August. And we do look for juniors, seniors, and grad students. And so, if there's students out there that aren't to that level yet, just keep us in mind when you are. But we have just found that the closer they are to graduation, the better, their skill set is. And it's also a better opportunity for us to possibly hire them on after the internship program ends. So that's why we look for those grade levels. But when you join Zions for the internship program, you're getting hands-on experience working with a specific team. And you get to interview and meet those team members, typically, at least the hiring manager. And when you work in the internship program, you generally have a manager. And then a lot of times you also have a mentor that's on the team that's maybe your more go-to person that can answer those questions for you. But you get, real work. You typically are assigned a project, and you get to work with that team day in and day out, working on that project and some of their day-to-day work. You go to staff meetings, you do brainstorming sessions. So it really is just, you get totally immersed into the work and use those skills that you have learned in school. Kind of goes back to what Robert was talking about, that you know, you sit in the classroom and you learn all of these things in the classroom, and you wonder how it applies in the workplace. And you get to do that with the internship program. And I'm sure you learn, especially as a lot of other skill sets as well throughout the summer. So it's just a great experience. It's something great to have on your resume. You also get to, you know, experience Zions. We get to see who you are, and it opens up a lot of doors to be in an internship program. It looks great on your resume, but you know, those students that have really done an outstanding job are those that we want to, you know, place and help place. If not after the internship, you know, since we do hire a lot of juniors that aren't ready to start their career yet, I have a lot of interns that return once they are ready to start their career, and they, you know, get a job at Zion. So those are the students that we love to have in the internship program, those that want to have a career in banking and just get a feel for what it's all about. During the summer, you not only work with that team, but you get to do some job shadowing and information sessions. Those are things that we encourage the students to do because we want the summer to be about exploring career options as well. So we have weekly networking events where we bring in senior leaders from around the band corporation and bank to talk about their areas, their divisions, the work that they do, possibly how they got where they are. And they just, they're fun sessions for the students. They get a break from their day-to-day work. They get to network with the other interns in the program and also hear about other career options. And I think that a lot of students don't have a good idea of how many career options there are at Zions or just in general out there. So again, you know, if they hear from these senior leaders and something triggers a spark that they think, wow, that sounds really interesting, they can reach out to that team then and do an information session, or, you know, ask if they can job shadow for an afternoon to get a bigger glimpse into the work that they do. So that is all part of the internship program. This summer, we will have about 45 interns, and I have already filled about 20 of those positions with our STEM students. So in the fall, we start our STEM recruiting. Usually the beginning of October, I have the STEM positions posted, and by the end of the year, we try to have those STEM intern positions filled. Then in January, we post the more general intern positions where we're looking for the finance, accounting, business, and marketing students. And our goal is to have those positions filled by the middle to end of March. And right now I have about 25 intern positions open. I do actually have a few stragglers from the STEM positions. So if there's any STEM students that are still looking for a position, I have a couple that I'm looking for stat students. And then there's a data science position as well. But most of them are, you know, we're looking for intern for our commercial banking division, which is where Robert is. And we have a couple in our real estate division and marketing. We have credit risk. We have, what else? Oh, municipal finance. So there's a number of intern positions. If you go to our website or Handshake, you'll find the intern positions. If you go directly to Zion's career webpage, there's a search bar that you can put in the term intern, and that will bring up a whole list of intern positions that we have. So, and I would encourage you to do that sooner rather than later, because I've had these positions, most of them have been posted since the beginning of the year, and they will be closing as we get a good group of candidates. I do think that the internship this summer will be virtual, at least to start off with. And we'll see how it goes. We really want to keep our employees safe. So working in a virtual environment is the way to go until there's a vaccine and, you know, ready for the general public, and we can return back to the office. So, you know, virtual is probably how we'll start. We did our entire summer internship program last summer virtually. So we have that experience to know that it's a successful program virtually or in the office. Everybody that participated in the program last year was pleasantly surprised at how well it worked virtually. All the students received, or all the interns received, laptops to work from their home. And we do a lot of Teams calls and things to keep in touch and to work with our coworkers. So it actually works out well. The other program that I mentioned that I recruit for is the Banker Development Program. And the Banker Development Program is it's really a position for college graduates. So if you are coming upon graduation in the spring, we are currently recruiting for our June Banker Development class. And we do recruiting twice a year. We have a June class and a January class. So December grads can look forward to, the recruiting. We usually start in the fall, again, around October, and we look to fill the January class. So as I mentioned, we have the June class positions posted right now. The title is Associate Credit Analyst, and that's the position that the candidates start out in. But the program is it is a full-time opportunity. So candidates are hired into a full-time position and are benefited, and it's a career in banking. It is for those individuals that want a career in banking but just aren't really sure where they want to land. And it is on the lending track. So, we're looking for the future leaders of the bank and, give them a great skill set to get there. And it's awesome to be able to watch those candidates as they progress through the program and throughout their careers. We actually have a affiliate of ours in Houston, Texas, that started this program over 20 years ago. And we have mirrored that program for Zions and across our other affiliate footprints because it is such a great program. And the students have classroom training, and then they have on-the-job training. So again, it's a 12 to 18 month program where the first 3 months is spent getting prepared for on-the-job training. The students go to what is called Credit Foundations, which is back to the classroom. They go back to the classroom for approximately 5 weeks, and they learn underwriting. They learn different areas of the bank that they need to have those tools to go out for that on-the-job training. And so they're doing case studies. They're learning bank compliance and regulatory. They are getting exposed to senior leaders and those different divisions. We have a manager of this program that is incredible with the candidates, or the analysts as we call them, that she is mentoring them throughout the process. And she's getting them prepared for the program rotational phase. She's picking up on their weaknesses. She's working with them to get those, up to a better skill set. So they have good presentation skills. They are comfortable talking to clients. She's exposing them to various things. So they, again, are building their skill set to make them the greatest, analyst and future leaders. And once they get done with that first 3 month session for their classroom training, they move on to the rotation phase of the program. And they can kind of take the knowledge that they've learned and give their preferences as to where they want to rotate. So that is certainly taken into consideration when they start their rotations. And they typically do 3 to 4 rotations, and those are 3 months at a clip. So they can rotate through like commercial banking. Again, that's where Robert is. We have 2 different real estate groups. We have it's called Practice Pathways, where it's more of the dental lending to the dental community and veterinarians. We have various areas. We have agriculture, if there's students that are interested in ag. So it really depends on the interest of the analyst and where they want to go, and they work hand in hand with the manager to get those rotations and those placements. So once they've and I guess to go a little bit further with that, when they're in the rotations, they're doing the underwriting, they're doing the credit analysis, they're doing the spreads, and working alongside those teams to get that skill set built up and to have a good understanding of what the lenders do. They're doing the work. So once they have been in the program for at least 12 months, they're eligible for placement. And these students or these analysts are sought out by these departments. And when a department has an opening, they want the analysts that have been in the banker development program. We look for the best of the best to put in the program. You have to have a 3.0 or above to be in the program or to be eligible for the program. And again, you also have to have your undergrad degree in hand. So it is for those recently graduated or early career, individuals that are looking for a career in banking. So that is what I wanted to talk to you all about and make you aware of those opportunities that Zions has. And I think we can open it up for questions.
Great. Yes. Thank you, Carol. We appreciate that. Listen, I've got a bunch of students that have graduated and moved on from the Huntsman School that are down there working at Zions. I keep in touch with them. They enjoy it. They love working down there. Anyway, it's been a great experience for them. I do have a couple questions coming in from students, if you don't mind, Carol. I have one question that says, a student asks, what qualities set applicants apart in the interview process? Do you mind speaking to that a little bit?
Yeah, certainly. And I'm going to back up just a little bit because we do get so many applicants for both our intern program and for our banker development program that a resume and cover letter are key. This morning before I joined this call, I was going through some resumes, and I honestly have so many candidates that on paper, they kind of look the same. So to set yourself apart, put together a good cover letter and explain to me why you want that position or why you're a good fit for that position. Those are the, with the banker development program, we want to see those students that have a passion for banking. So explain that in a cover letter. Anything that is not in your resume that you think is important to showcase, that's what I want to see in a cover letter. And I know a lot of students think that recruiters don't read cover letters. I do, because, again, they're starting out their career. They don't have a lot of experience on their resume. So that to me is what is important. And then during the interview process, it's just, let your personality come out and let us see your personality. And again, that passion for banking. We're not just looking for students that want to have a job for the summer for the intern program or for the banker development program. We're certainly not just looking to fill a spot. We are looking for those students that can show us that they want to work in banking, that they want that career. So we can see on paper that they're smart, that they have a good GPA, because that's certainly important. But again, we just want to see more of the passionate side of what it is they want to do and what they see as their future career. And, so I would say that's important to let that come out during an interview.
Great advice.
Dr. Blau, do you mind if I just add one?
That would be great.
We get involved as senior leaders in some of the interviewing of the business development candidates. And the key thing that stands out for me is those individuals who really have this sense of being inquisitive. They're excited to learn, and they're willing to put themselves out there. That really stands out for me in that interview process.
Right. That's great information. Again, Carol, deadlines, you got to go to Zions or Handshake. The internship opportunities are listed there. What were the deadlines again, if we can just reiterate?
Yeah, For the internship program, I guess really for both of them, we've had them posted since probably the second week of January. So as we get a good group of candidates, the positions will close. So again, I would say, I mean, we are starting interviews for the banker development program next week, and we will probably be interviewing first round the first, or next week and probably into the following week. And then we have second round interviews scheduled for the first week of March. So we have to be done with first round interviews prior to that. So yeah, I would certainly advise and recommend to get your application in as soon as possible. Take this weekend and take a look at our website if you're interested in any of those opportunities.
Right. Again,
Go
ahead, Robert.
I would also, sorry, Dr. Blau. We place business development candidates as well as interns across our footprint. So all of the state of Utah, all of the state of Idaho is available as a marketplace where you could serve as an intern or you could serve as a member of our business development pool of candidates. We have a business development individual that just started in the January class that's down in St. George. We have others that are, of course, in the Salt Lake City area where our hub is. We've had business development people in Boise and in Idaho, Boise and in Idaho Falls and in Burley, Twin Falls area. So don't limit yourself to, I don't want to live in Salt Lake.
Yeah, you said St. George, and it's wintertime in Cache Valley. I imagine some ears perked up there, Robert. So thanks for that. That was
and just to touch on that a little bit more. Each, I mentioned that we have those openings in January and June. We evaluate where there's a need for each, opening. And for the June class, we have openings in Provo, in Salt Lake, and in Boise. So those are our locations that we're looking to fill right now. For January, we filled in St. George, and we almost always have positions in Salt Lake. But to Robert's point, the students or those analysts can come in, and we'd like them to stay for a few years in those areas. But then the world is open to them for the Zions footprint. They can go anywhere.
That's great. Great information. We sure appreciate having you on campus and virtually and recruiting our students. This has been a great conversation. I have a few questions coming in from students. Robert, if you don't mind, if you could answer a few questions, a few more. Are you up for that? Appreciate that. I have some very interesting questions here. One is, how do you develop the skill to apply textbook learning to practice? I thought that was a great question by a student. Maybe could you comment on that? How do you develop the skill to take it from the textbook into real world practice?
Well, I think textbook learning, translating textbook learning into practical application is indeed a skill, right? And I think what you have to do is you have to learn a textbook principle and then think about, how does this apply to life? What does this have to do with anything, right? I had the blessing, if you will, of some professors that really keyed in on this idea of, that's great, we learned this concept, now how does it apply? Where will you ever use this? And both in my undergraduate program as well as in my MBA program, I had professors that thought that way, and it created the curiosity in my own mind to say, well, yeah, that's the whole reason I'm here, is not to learn the textbook way, but to learn practical application. And so over time, I've just developed this process of my own. If I read a book about leadership, or if I read a book about marketing, or if I learn a concept, I always try to take a step back and say, okay, what does this mean? And why is it important? And most importantly, how can I use it? Because if you don't develop this process of how am I going to use this, to a certain extent, you're wasting your time. Because that's really that's why we read books. That's why we go to school. That's why we learn these principles. So really, it's a matter of reflection in my mind, and forcing your mind as a part of the reflection to go there. What do I see in the world around me that would make this applicable? Does that make sense?
That's a great answer. I love that answer. That's I think also the students, my experience has been the students that are best at taking what they're learning in the class to the real world are students, and this is to Carol's point, are students that are passionate about something, right? They're students that love the topic that they're learning, are more prone to go and look at how they can implement that particular principle or that concept in the real world. So I appreciate what you said there. I got another one here for you, if you don't mind. Another student asks, what do you do when you work with a manager who might not be transparent with you? Right. So we talked about the importance of transparency, which I think is a super important principle of leadership. What happens if you're not a leader at your position and you don't have that transparency? Any thoughts on that?
Well, I'll answer it maybe my way.
Right.
I believe that we as leaders owe it to those that we lead, to treat them the same way that we would like to be treated. Kind of the golden rule concept, right? And I have had managers who are not transparent. And I've had individuals that really, really would prefer that their employees are kind of kept in the dark. Those are challenging situations. And one thing that I've tried to do is be thoughtful about the types of questions that I ask, so that I can get to what I'm trying to understand without being a pest. So some people who don't want to be transparent also don't want to be asked questions, right? And so you thoughtfully think through, what types of things do I need to know or should I know? And then formulate in advance, how can I ask a question that would lead me down the path? For many of those managers, and I would say I've had 3 of them through my career. For many of those managers, if you can ask the right question, they actually start to open up, and they actually start to kind of share some information that otherwise wouldn't be made available. It's just a matter of asking the right types of questions that create the opportunity for a conversation.
Great. That's great advice. Listen, we're about out of time here. We want to thank our distinguished guests, Robert Bischoff, Executive Vice President at Zions over Commercial Lending, and Carol Durkis, who has provided important information regarding Zions internships. This has been a fascinating conversation. I know we only have an hour, but I could have stayed on and asked you a bunch more questions about the financial crisis, Robert. I appreciate your insight, both in the financial services industry and particularly with respect to leadership. This broadcast will be made available on the Huntsman School YouTube channel. So we encourage those to share this with their friends so that we can glean some more great insights from our guests. Again, we thank you for joining us today. We're wishing you all the best. Please stay healthy, and hopefully we can find ways to have students better prepared to have great careers at Zions. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great pleasure. Thank you